So you've got some melody ideas down, but how do we plug lyrics into those melodies? How do we turn that gibberish kind of nonsense stuff that we like? We know there's something special there, but how do we come up with lyrics to fit it? Well, in this video, I've got you covered, my friend. I really do. I've got a system that I want to share with you to come up with lyrics that fit the melodies that you've already made. It's super simple, and it uses tools that you probably already have. And I'm gonna break this all down for you step by step in real time so that you can learn how to apply this process to your own songs. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is click play and listen through these melody ideas that I've captured. But, very key point, whatever you use to write your lyrics normally or flesh out ideas, get that device or pen and paper right in front of you as you're listening to these melody ideas. Why? Well, because the first part of this is to write down the gibberish. I'm actually gonna try to put words to what my subconscious was kind of telling me during this melody finding phase. I'm gonna try to match words and lyrics to the patterns, tonal inflections, anything. And I'm just gonna jot all that down. As weird as this might be, hopefully it's still appropriate for YouTube, but I'm gonna write all this stuff down so that I have a starting point. So bear with the madness. It doesn't need to make sense right now. We're gonna get to that. Right now, we wanna try to build off of that awesome melody that we have and just flesh out what it sounds like these words are. So for that right there, don't stop thinking what you're doing. And I'm gonna try to hit that again. What's that? I don't want what you feel, what you're losing. Another tip here is as you're writing down these lyrics, I want you to spell it out as it sounds. How it sounds, it's a key point because sometimes we can write melody ideas and then we try to plug lyrics into them. And by plugging lyrics into them, something gets miscommunicated, something gets diluted by putting our lyrics in. So now the melody doesn't really sound like it did when we first created it. And when we first created it, it was awesome and we're like, oh, I can't wait for this to be a song. And we plug lyrics in, something gets miscommunicated and it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't hit the same way. So what I've realized for me personally, and I think it's gonna help you, is write out what it sounds like this melody is. So I don't want what you feel, what you're losing, right? That's literally what it sounded like in the melody. I don't want to write, I don't want what you're feel, what you're losing, right? It's what ya. And believe it or not, there's gonna be a difference in here as we're trying to plug lyrics in. So write it as it sounds, all right? So let's keep going. Doing. I don't want what you're feeling. Feeling and I knew this, feeling and I'm losing. We have listened to our gibberish, our melody, just plugging words as close as we can to what it sounds like, regardless of if it makes sense or not. Because what we've done is we've got our materials in place. Right? Like we need to have our materials in place before we can start building something. These are our materials. The nonsense and gibberish, we've turned it into something that we can now reflect on, change, build upon, and move around. A key point too that I would really suggest to you is to start with the chorus. There's a reason why. So I created a guide talking about how to create songs from start to finish in 5 steps. That's all you need. What we're covering today is actually one of those parts. We're talking about lyrics, and I expand upon this in the guide, but what we want to do is start with the chorus because the chorus is the great sum up of our song. So it's really important that we get this part right because your chorus is gonna inform all the other parts of your song. If you're getting stuck finishing your songs and something like lyrics or melody are kind of hanging you up, download that free guide that I put together. It was built for that reason. It's my hope to give you tips and workflows and things you haven't tried to help spark new inspiration and new ways of doing things so you can get more songs done. So check that out, friend. It's completely free and it will go along perfect with this tutorial. Link is in the description below, or you can go right to finishsongsguide.com. So the next thing that we're gonna do is try to plug in words and things that make a little bit more sense. But here's the key, never deviating or deviating too far from the structure we've established, because that's gonna be the key to you still digging this. Just to keep it real, like that's gonna be the key for you to still enjoy this melody idea with the new lyrics that you're plugging in, because everybody knows it's not what you say as much as how you say it. So we wanna keep that melody. The melody is how we're saying some of this stuff. You know, as I'm changing words here, I'm kind of trying to look and play around these 3 different barometers. So I can change a word based on the syllable count. So if it's the same syllable count, that's gonna be a good swap. If it is a word that rhymes, that's also a good swap. Those are some of the best ones. And the third kind of barometer there, metric that I would use for swapping words out is, does it kind of mean the same thing? So if you can get all 3 of those, so you got a word that's the same syllable count, that rhymes, and it means the same thing, or could mean the same thing based on how you use the rest of the words, that's probably a good swap. So for instance, I've got don't on here, right? Don't stop. If I could turn don't into won't, right? Won't stop. Woo! Because that could mean kind of the same thing, like don't stop, won't stop. Trying to say unable to cease, right? Like unable to stop. So won't stop thinking what you're doing, all right? So we gotta change that a little bit. And I'll just kind of, sometimes I'll just play. We'll just like repeat that. Won't stop thinking how. So what, how, same syllable count. Could can be similar in meaning, definitely doesn't rhyme, but I'm gonna change it anyway. Won't stop thinking how you're doing. Oh, I like that. I could not dig this in a little bit, but right now that's pretty cool. I like that. So won't stop thinking how you're doing. What I'll kind of do is like, I like to have a little bit of fun, so I'll kind of mark, use like an emoji or something to like mark, yo, that is sweet. That is sweet. So what you want to do after you identify this kind of main line that you find is you're gonna want to pause for a second, and you're just gonna want to think about that line, think about the things it could mean, because we don't want to get too deep into this. I covered this in my melody video, but what we did with our melody was really lean into our subconscious. Our subconscious was at play, and could have been based on the mood we were in that day, could have been based on something that happened right before we started creating. The subconscious is just a wild thing. And so whatever was coming up to the surface through our melody and our gibberish, there's usually a concept hidden in there. There's usually a concept hidden there. So you don't want to stray too far from that. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and mute that gibberish, and I'm just gonna play this. Think about the music, how it makes me feel, makes me think of. Right? And so for me in particular with this song, this feels like that could be a line in this song. You know what I mean? Like you gotta be able to sell it to yourself as the writer, like, won't stop thinking how you're doing. Won't stop thinking how you're doing. That could be a couple different ways, right? I won't stop thinking how you're doing. Like I could think about, man, somebody that you miss, somebody that you haven't seen in a long time, just won't stop thinking about how you're doing. Could be a love interest, right? Could be somebody you're just like, man, I can't think about, you won't stop thinking about how you're doing because you're dominating my mind. Could be kind of a darker thing, won't stop thinking how you're doing. You know, like some kind of turn, like, I know that you're not a good influence, you're not a good person, I really shouldn't even be thinking about how you're doing, but I won't stop, you know? So you see what I'm saying? So you can go so many different directions. This is why it's important to find that main concept, that main chain of words that'll help you kind of flesh out the rest of this. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep that for now, and the key is pacing here, is to not get too bogged down for too long. Don't overthink things, don't overcomplicate things, just write and reiterate, write and reiterate. So if you do this on pen and paper, maybe you're scratching out words, pointing arrows to stuff, but you wanna have some system where you can categorize your changes. So won't stop thinking how you're doing, I like that. The next line here, I'm gonna turn on this gibberish again, so we can kind of dial that in. Woo, there we go, we matching it. Won't stop thinking how you doing. When you're gone, you know I really lose it. Cool, so we got those first two. So what would be easy to do is just repeat that line, right? Won't stop thinking how you're doing. When you're gone, you know I really lose it. Won't stop thinking how you're doing. Da 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 da. Right, another line at the end. I don't really want to cop out like that. I want to try to let's try to make that line a little bit more unique. This ain't how. So that I just came with this ain't how, right? And so here's a tip. As I'm starting to write this new line right here, this ain't how, you know, this is still the original line I was just typing before it. So what I want to do is keep that line because I don't really know where I'm going yet. You know what I'm saying? So I want to save my progress, so to speak. So I'm gonna bounce everything down. I'm gonna bounce this guy down because this is the one that I'm working on. I'm trying to replace thinking what you're doing. Thinking what you're doing. This ain't how we're supposed to be. This ain't how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, yeah. I hold on, but you're slipping through my fingers. Woo! So went through that just a little bit faster for the sake of the tutorial here, but you can see the process that we're going through, right? But that's not all. We can go one step further, and I just want to share one more pro tip that you could use in your workflow for lyrics. I talk about this in the free guide that I put together. So if you want to expand on this a little bit more, you can check out that guide for free and dive into all the goodies in there. But what we can do is go ahead and punch in our lyrics. So instead of just writing them on pen and paper or writing them down in our notes app, I'm actually gonna go ahead and punch in these lyrics that I just wrote fresh into the music. But this process, this extra step, could do a couple things for you. The first biggest one is it can speed up your workflow. I used to write my lyrics separate. I would dedicate time to writing all of my lyrics, and then I would dedicate time to recording all of my vocals, instead of writing and recording in the same time. This isn't for everybody, but if you've never tried it, I would encourage you to, because you save so much time, so much creative energy. I just wrote this. I'm coming off of that feeling good, right? Feeling inspired by these lyrics. I'm gonna channel that into my vocal performance. I just felt this. I just had this hit home. And you can always change this stuff later. Just because you record it doesn't mean it's like concrete, right? But I wanna get it into the music. And sometimes I've found that by recording my vocals right after I've written the lyrics, I can actually spark some different ideas for other directions to take with my lyrics. So that's what I'm gonna do next really quick. I'm gonna punch these in. Won't stop thinking how you do it. When you're gone, you know I really lose it. This ain't how it's supposed to be, but hold on, but we're slipping through my fingers. And like I was saying, this can just save you time. It can also just be a good habit in order to help continue to move along your song. Because if we just stay in lyrics in the phone or the notepad, music inside the DAW, like eventually we gotta combine these, right, to finish a song. So this is just one extra step that you can do. If you've got the time, you just wrote it, punch it in, like get it in there. Then I would move on to the other parts of my song. If you're looking for more tips like this, more workflows and different ideas of making your songs come to life from start to finish, check out that free guide that I put together. It was made for you. Fellow songmaker to fellow songmaker, it's gonna help you. It's gonna give you a new workflow to try out that might spark some new ideas, and it just might be the reason that you could finish more songs than you start.